For the copper sulfide part of our lab, for this one of the chemical formulas, we have our setup. We have a clay triangle, we have a crucible, the crucible cover, and then of course we have our Bunsen burner. What we first initially have to do is heat up, same thing we did with the porcelain. We're going to heat up the crucible so that we try to drive off as much moisture as possible. Here we're just going to make sure that we kind of get it to a red glowish, okay? And so once that happens, what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the heat, close the cover so that no moisture is condensed into the plate. And then from there on out, no moisture is condensed back into the plate, and then we're going to go ahead and let it cool down, and then we're going to add our components so that we can start our reaction, okay? So we're going to go ahead and turn on the gas and then start heating. And so as you can see, we're trying to not, yeah, that should be fine. We're gonna heat, and then once we're done heating, like I said, we'll turn it off, let it cool down, cover the crucible, and then let it cool down, and then take the mass of the crucible. And as you can see, we've come to the time where there is a slight orange glow, reddish glow on the clay triangle, and that's the point that we wanted to get to. So then what we're going to do is we're going to turn off our fire, and as we turn off our fire, now we're just going to let it cool down. And as we let it cool down, we got to do one small little thing. We're going to get our wire tongs, and then we're just going to close our porcelain dish and let it cool down to the room temperature. So once the crucible and the crucible cover have been cooled down, we're going to put it on the scale to get the mass of it. And as you can see, the mass of the crucible and the crucible cover is going to be a total of 37.25. We take off the crucible cover, and our mass is at 20.59. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to measure the copper. And so as we measure the copper, I got some small little copper filings in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to zero that out so that we can, we need about 1.5 to 2 grams of copper. And so what we're going to do is, since it's rather long, I'm just going to bend it a little bit just so that it fits at the base of our crucible, and then just go ahead and keep adding until we get to our desired amount. And so far we are at 0.24. We got another one, we're at 0.3. Add another one, 0.36, 0.4, we're almost at 1. So now that we have measured out our our copper filings, kind of wounded them up a little bit, our mass of our sample is going to be 1.52, 1.53. And then now we're going to do is add enough sulfur onto there in order for us to cover it, and we'll continue with our setup and starting our reaction. Just in case you wanted the mass for all three, there it is, 38.82. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add sulfur into our copper, and so we're going to add enough sulfur powder so that we cover the entirety of the copper that's in there. Okay, and so hopefully you can see. Now we still need a little bit more. Add a little bit more. Okay. So I will lower the camera so that you can see that I have added enough sulfur over the copper so that it covers it completely. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cover this. I'm going to place it on the triangle, and then now we're going to start our heating process. And we got to heat first slowly, and then just make sure that all of the sulfur is burned. Okay, and we're doing all of this under the hood just for precautionary purpose. As you can see, we have started heating our crucible with the cover on, and inside we have our copper as well as covered in sulfur. And so we're just going to continue heating until we know for a fact that all the sulfur has been reacted essentially with the copper. And so we'll come and check it out in just a bit. Okay. And so we're just going to continue heating, and this redness, dullness that they speak of in the manual, that's what we're looking after. And so as we continue heating, we're only going to continue heating for about another 5 minutes, and then let it cool down. All right. And so as you can see, our 10 minutes are up. So we're just going to go ahead and turn off the heat, and then wait for it to cool. And that's it. We have turned off our heat. Now we're just going to allow our substance, our crucible, to cool down, and we'll go ahead and take the mass. So now that we have cooled our crucible, we're going to go ahead and take the mass of the crucible, contents inside, and of course the cover. And as you can see, that's the mass of the crucible, the contents, and the cover. We're going to go ahead and heat again a second time for approximately the second time, for approximately the same amount, give or take about 10, 20, about 10, I think it was about 10, 15 minutes. And so what we're going to do is we're going to heat up, and then we're going to cool again for about 10 minutes. Once it's cool, we're going to take the mass again, and if the mass is the same, then we're done, and we can go ahead and calculate how much copper sulfide we actually have inside that container. Okay, so now as we have heated our crucible, it's been about 10-15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the heat. And so as I turn off the heat, all I'm going to do is let it cool down for another, I'm going to let it cool for about 10 minutes. All right. So we're going to let it cool for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to make another mass measurement. And then if the mass does not change from what we had at 39.20, then we should be fine. We should make our calculations based upon that. And so once we get our mass of our zinc, this is of our copper sulfide. If you notice, the mass of it did not change, and so we're good to go. We don't have to heat any further. If we go ahead and open it, you'll notice that we have our compound of zinc sulfide there is inside our container.